It's your friendly math tutor here, Miss C, to show you how to solve quadratic equations. There are two ways to solve quadratic equations. One method is factoring, which you can see in another video. The other method is using the quadratic formula. Today, that's what we're going to do. We are going to use the quadratic formula. So, for reference, this is the quadratic formula. You're going to notice we have x, and notice that's the only variable we have in our equation because we've replaced the y value with 0. This is a must when you are solving an equation. You have to have everything on one side and the other side needs to equal 0. And then we have variables a, b, and c. So I have color coded these in our equation. A is always the leading coefficient. B is always the term, the coefficient attached to the linear term. In this case, it's -10. And C is always our constant. And what I want you to notice is that the signs, whether they're positive or negative, stay attached to our variables. So B is not 10, it's -10. And C is not 12, it's -12. This is one of the most common mistakes that gets made when using the quadratic formula. So all we're going to do at this point is now substitute our values. So I'm going to start x equals negative, b is negative, so I'm going to have a negative followed by a negative plus or minus the square root of, again, b, oh, I used the wrong color on this, should be -10. Okay, -10. That whole thing, including the negative sign, is squared. So you should never be getting a negative number out of this term. Minus 4, and this is where a comes in for the first time. So there's a 2, and c, which is -12. And all of this gets divided by 2, and then a. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to simplify. So -10, two negatives make a positive, plus or minus the square root of -10 squared, that's -10 times -10, which is 100, minus 4 times -2 times -12. There's a negative times a negative. This turns into a positive. When I multiply all these things together, I get 96, all divided by 2 times 2, which is 4. So I'm going to clean this up and simplify it. So we have 10 plus or minus the square root of 196 divided by 4. Okay, I'm going to come over here now. Square root of 196 is 14. So I now have x equals, I'm going to switch colors so it's a little easier to see. X equals 10 plus or minus the square root, not the square root because we got rid of that. Erase that for a second. That's also a common mistake, so be careful there. Plus or minus 14 divided by 4. Okay, this is where the two answers come out. That plus or minus is like taking two equations and squishing it into one. So we can rewrite this as 10 plus 14 divided by 4 in one equation, and 10 minus 14 divided by 4. Now, a lot of people do this in their heads, and that's absolutely fine, but this is really the math of what's happening. So we end up with x equals 24 divided by 4. So x equals 6. So that's one of our solutions. And then we have x equals -4 divided by 4. So x equals -1. Now, if I were your teacher, I would say go ahead and plug these back into the initial equation and make sure that when you plug 6 in for every x value, you get 0 out. And do the same thing for -1. That way you know 100% that you did this correctly, but I've run out of space on my screen, so I'm not going to show that substitution, but I know that you can do it. So thanks for taking the time to learn the quadratic formula with me. Make sure to subscribe for more math videos. Till next time, remember, you've got this.